Next up is an update from the Webster Economic Development Alliance Executive Director, Matt Chatfield, on the activities going on at the Alliance.
Yeah. Does the board mind if I stay seated? So, thank you very much for having me here today. Just a quick overview of WEDA. It is the public-private partnership for economic development within the community. 5 key members: town, village, school district, Chamber of Commerce, and the Business Improvement District. Created the organization back in 2014, and the overall strategic focus of the organization is what we call the 4 R's: resources, relationship, retention, and recruitment. Those are the things that we focus on a regular basis, as well as strategic projects within the community. So I'm going to give a quick update on some of the strategic projects we have currently taking place both within the town and the village. I think also understanding what's going on in the village is good context for the town board to understand, is we're all one community and we all tend to try and work together towards common goals. Over the past several years, we've had quite a bit of success as a partnership. Over $10 million of funds have come in to the community, mostly in the form of grant funds. And that amounts to about $18.74 for every dollar that's been contributed to the organization itself from the 5 members. So our return on investment as a community is very good from an economic development perspective, and we continue to seek funds and bring those funds into the community. Some of the key projects that are on the map in front of you include Sandbar Park. That is a signature project within the town of Webster. The project itself is largely the product of efforts from the Alliance. To be as frank as possible, the Alliance brought in the original $118,000 for design and engineering back in 2015, and then that resulted in additional funds being brought in for construction. Currently, we stand at about $4.6 million of grant funds in the door for a projected $11 million project, of which phase 1 was roughly $8 million. As we're going to look at that one a little bit more in particular. Funding secured to date, $4.6 million on Sandbar. And where do we stand on that project? What's next? If the town is to continue on with phase 2 of the project, it's the environmental education area. Right now, roughly $1.6 to $1.8 million projected for that project as of right now, but it still needs to go through the final design process. So next steps for the town would be to hire professional designers, engineers, landscape architects to finalize the design and come up with a final cost estimate. That project is being done in conjunction in partnership with the school district. There are funds earmarked from the sale of the Basket Road Stadium facility, roughly $324,000 plus or minus, and that has been earmarked towards the environmental education area. So there's already a small chunk of funds that we believe would go towards that project. Development of an advisory committee, how we can have a better town-school relationship for the programming and of that facility, and potentially the operation of it. And then, of course, additionally, at Sandbar Park is the future of potential restaurant facility on that property. And the future of that is to be decided, I believe, sometime probably in the next calendar year. West Webster Hamlet is another focus area of the Webster Economic Development Alliance, and it has been a focus of the town board for quite a significant amount of time over the past several years, I would say. Where we stand now is we've secured funding and have finalized a master plan for that project. The overall study was $100,000, and Josh Artuso gave you an update on that project, I would say 5 to 6 weeks ago. And then truly the next steps on that are to finalize coordination with Monroe County on the future of 600 Ridge Road. So we're diligently working with the town to try and identify a path forward to to both mitigate the issues there and bring that project and that property back onto the tax rolls as being positively, contributing positively to the town of Webster and the Hamlet. And there are some zoning recommendations as well as some code enforcement recommendations that were made as part of that study. So those would be next steps for the town board if they wanted to continue on the path towards implementation of that master plan for the Hamlet. And then of course it's my responsibility to go out and continue to try and identify sources of funding to implement all these wonderful ideas. Moving eastward, we have quite a substantial amount of time and effort over the past, I would say, 9 years and counting, in a coordination effort with the Xerox Corporation on the future of its campus. As we all know, there are several portions of the campus, sizable portions, that have been deactivated. There's empty buildings, vacant land, and Xerox as a corporation has decided to come to the table and be a partner in future planning and revitalization of its campus. And they are a partner within a master planning process that is being led by the village. The village was awarded $203,000 in funds from the Department of State. And we are currently undertaking a master planning effort for that area in yellow, boundary box, that does cross into the town of Webster. It includes the town's recreation center, some lands along the Phillips Road. The supervisor and Josh Artuso have both been, and both are, continue to be a part of the advisory committee for this project. And this is a master planning effort, so this is not a hard capital construction project yet. The goal is, how do we identify the future vision for this? Where does it fit within the community? How do we go about understanding the potential ramifications for changes in land use in this area, as well as development intensity, and understanding how they impact all things even related to transportation as well. So there's a host of issues that we're hoping to provide recommendations for that come out of this, including land use changes, development intensity, transportation recommendations, and some general public policy recommendations as well. Next steps for that project are that consultants will prepare and finalize that master plan, hopefully to be done by the end of this calendar year. WEDA is also in the process of identifying a list of usual suspects, likely developers and investors, to invite to a forum. It'll be an invite-only forum on the prospects of development investment in this location. As part of this master planning effort, we have conducted a market analysis. We've hired economists and economic development specialists and real estate specialists to conduct an economic analysis. And one of the findings is that this area could support 1,000 housing units over the next 5 years, new housing units, approximately 40% of rental units and 60% owner-occupied. So there is a driving market for housing within the study area, and part of the master planning process is to identify, are there any appropriate areas that could be converted to a residential use? Or are there areas that should just remain industrial? So that's part of that master planning. Also in the village, downtown revitalization continues to be a primary goal of what we hope to accomplish within the Webster Economic Development Alliance. If we go back 8 years to 2015, the Alliance was successful in obtaining private monies from CoBank, from the Weather Channel, from Xerox Corporation, from Frontier Communications. We obtained about $50,000 in private money. We generated a community investment strategy. It was like the Alliance's version of the town's comprehensive plan, mostly on private investment. Where should we be investing in our community? There's 6 real big topic areas. The top focus area within the community, based on 6 months of public outreach, was downtown revitalization. Residents across the town and village wanted to see a revitalized village center. The second most important area was a revitalized waterfront. Third most important topic area was productive open space and recreational resources for families. And then after that, an industrial center that will create jobs and economic opportunity. So since 2015, I would say that we've been largely ticking those things off of that list. We've been focusing on downtown revitalization, been focusing on waterfront revitalization, been focusing on industrial development, and we've been focusing on parks, recreation, and those community development services that make Webster a great place to live. Moving forward for downtown revitalization, there is a grant opportunity for the village. Currently, New York State has created a $4.5 million program where if the community devises a strategy for private and public investment, these are actually investment dollars. If you come up with a good enough plan and they like it, they will help fund it. Last year, we submitted an application on behalf of the village in a small area. It was mostly on Main Street, and we made it to the finals. We were actually one of the final 8. They selected 3 communities for awards, but we made it to the final 8 for interviews. So we have a very good chance this year. So we are revising our application as we speak. That will be submitted on the 29th of September. So the notice of award for that, those funds would likely come back in 2024. And where this aligns with that prior project, that Reimagined Webster project, is that it overlaps. So now we're talking about implementation dollars for recommendations that we're currently just finalizing within the master planning process. So we're really trying to almost take on projects, 2 projects at multiple levels simultaneously, but aligning ourselves to really make things happen sooner rather than later. Another project, right? The list just keeps going on and on. We have a lot going on within the Webster Economic Development Alliance. The Community Access Project at Xerox. We've been talking about this one for several years now. In coordination with Xerox, the Village of Webster is exploring taking public dedication of some private roads. Currently, we have about $1.838 million towards the rehabilitation of those roadways prior to them or just after them entering into the public domain. It would be foolish on behalf of the public sector to take private roads that are in massive states of disrepair and then rely on the very local, small delegation of 5,000 residents in the Village of Webster to rehab them on behalf of the major corporation in the community. It doesn't make sense. We all agree on that. We're just trying to identify a path forward if we can make this happen, right? If we can bring these roads into the public domain and help facilitate development of the private sector for a major redevelopment site in Webster. There's an 88-acre site directly across the street from the Webster Recreation Center that is the focus of that Reimagined Webster initiative, that $203,000 master planning effort. So there's a lot of time, effort, and resources going into the future of this small portion of our community, but we feel that it is what we call a catalytic opportunity, right? This is a catalyst for future private development. So we're still awaiting potential matching funds from the federal government. We requested $4 million. We have been given a preliminary anticipation that an award of $500,000 could be awarded from the federal government, but that all is pending on federal legislation. We're continuing to work together, the town, the village, WEDA, and Xerox with Monroe County, because Monroe County is also planning on undertaking massive improvements to Phillips Road, which goes right through this whole master planning effort. So we've had multiple meetings talking about the future of that corridor and how it relates to the future of this portion of our community. And I'm going to end with a bigger picture, right? We have maybe two more slides here to talk about what the bigger picture of what's going on in the industrial portion of our community. Many years ago, I coined the term the Northeast Area for Technology, NEAT, our NEAT zone. It's a 1,500 acre plus or minus industrial zone within our community. It crosses both the town and village boundary. It extends largely from Route 250 at the very southwestern extent in the village and continues all the way to our Fairlife project, essentially. Just east or just west of County Line Road. That is the industrial zone within our community. But currently that industrial zone is bisected. There's really two separate zones. There's a yellow box that mostly focuses on Basket Road. And then there's the green zone, which focuses mostly on what we would consider the Xerox campus, right? The Xerox campus that extends mostly between Phillips and Salt Roads with some appendages on either side. These areas are, although it's all zoned uniformly, these areas are distinct. They are not connected via any sort of infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, other than Route 104. So the vision, the larger vision, is to create a unified transportation corridor from Route 250 to Basket Road, utilizing almost entirely roads that are currently in existence today. Mitchell Dean, the largest extent of which is currently private. I think the long-range goal would be for that to be rehabilitated and brought into the public domain. And the actual, to make this vision come to fruition, there are two small extension projects. One on the west that would bring Childhood Drive and a new gateway into the town's recreation center out to Route 250, currently on land owned by the town. And a small extension of Bolter Industrial Parkway west to Salt Road. That project we've heard a lot about recently because the Fairlife project itself has made that small connection more timely. Right now, the time is more of the essence to see if we can bring that connection to fruition. This slide just talks about the infrastructure that's going on in Basket and Salt Road corridor. Everybody's very familiar with what's going on in this corridor. But I would like to point out that the investments that are taking place within the public infrastructure of this corridor are not merely focused on one singular project. These investments will go a long way towards making this entire Basket and Salt Road area much more viable for long-term economic development. The Fairlife project is a wonderful standalone project within our community. And yes, there will be some infrastructure that will be upgraded because of it. But it will not be only to the benefit in the long run of just the Fairlife project. I think we have a large 85-acre site currently owned by Xerox. We have a 20-acre site owned by Paychecks. We have property that's currently owned by Tessie Corporation. We have a lot of economic opportunity in this area. And what we are undertaking now is planning for the future to determine how much of that opportunity we can bring into reality. Just a quick understanding of that Bolter Parkway industrial extension, brings that road right through some Xerox lands. We are currently identifying a path forward with Xerox on how we can make that a reality. So then what's the next on that particular roadway extension project? Well, the next steps would be for the town to hire a design engineer. The town and the school to finalize that transfer process, because there's also lands of the school district that would be involved. Surveying the corridor as part of the design process. And lastly, it is the Economic Development Alliance's intention very soon to submit funding to support the engineering and the survey components of that project. So all of those soft cost efforts of part one of a longer term process. Our goal is to submit a request to the state to fund those costs. And lastly, I'm ending on the big picture, right? We started off small, we talked about a lot of singular projects, but it's always good to take that step back and really understand how all of this connects and works together. Over the past several years, our NEAT zone, this Northeast Area for Technology, has identified several large areas for economic opportunity within our community. We have them numbered 1 through 7 on here. Sites ranging from 88 acres to 43 acres to 120 acres. Right? They run the gamut of potential projects for investment. A good portion of them are owned by Xerox Corporation, and it is the continued partnership with Xerox Corporation that will hopefully allow us to continue to submit these projects for large site selectives within the community, similar to that we did for Fairlife, working with our partners at the Greater Rochester Enterprise to bring large-scale investment and job creation into our community. So, with that, I will open it up to questions from the board.
And how many people are on staff at WEDA?
The staff of WEDA consists of 1 executive director.
Just leave it at that?
I wake up often in the middle of the night thinking about things.
This is tremendous undertaking.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on, but it's largely because there's a lot of opportunity within our community, and it would be foolish for us to sit back and not at least explore these opportunities, because there really is. It's unique.
Nice work. Good work in putting this together, because you've shown, anybody who wants to know to see exactly what's going on.
And the reasons,
You put it all in one,
and the reasons
you put it all
we
in
are,
one, basically one pamphlet. I don't know how you did it.
and the reasons we're undertaking what we're doing. There's a very coherent process here. There's just not enough staff resources to waste time on projects. We've identified to do this.
Good. Great work. Good job.
It goes back to the old case for business days with Webster Chamber of Commerce, when we created those master plans, if you will, but now what you've done is taken it to actionable steps. And it's great, good work.
It's not so much a question as a comment, because since I am one of the board members of WEDA, and actually the last, I think, 20 months I've been the president of the board, those 20 months has been, that's the difference of the relationship between Matt and myself, and as the executive director and president. And especially in the last couple of months, as we try to get together in the morning before the workday starts, to talk about WEDA specific things, how to maybe grow it, to your point, 1 employee, this and that. The problem that Matt and I run into at those meetings is that there's so much going on that we tend to start talking granularly about these projects. We look up, an hour and 15 minutes has gone by, and we really haven't talked about WEDA and what we're trying to do with structure, so that, can you imagine that? Yeah, and I gotta take the blame for that.
Well, I don't let my toast get cold. Maybe your Tom's eggs get cold, but
Yeah.
I eat.
But it just, there's so many things going on here.
It's great to see the progression through the years that you've accomplished, that WEDA's accomplished also. And I remember 2013 Village of Webster, that was pretty huge. So, every year you're building upon previous year's success, so, congratulations.
Well, this puts everything together in one place.
It really
If
does.
somebody wanted to come in who was totally
Right.
unfamiliar with
What's
the
going on in
projects,
Webster? Here
they
it
can
is.
go through this thing in an hour and see exactly what's going on, where it's going.
Right.
Yeah, this is a good piece of work. And of course, congratulations to you for all the money you've raised and everything else. That goes without saying. This is a good presentation.
Grants follow the good projects.
It was nice to see you at the farmer's market on Wednesday, it was a couple of weeks ago. I'm glad you had that booth there, and there were a number of people that stopped over and asked a lot of very, very good questions, including myself. And, thank you